fork.
I
Crank.
twisted that so hard I would actually send you to the hospital.
Yeah,
if I did
probably.
the same. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cheap Smut. My name is Katie Mizell.
And my name is Carl Mizell.
And this is a podcast about smutty books and our awesome marriage.
Yeah, in that order.
Yeah.
We try to keep our marriage to a minimum and just let the chemistry of it come through instead of constantly talking about it. But, you know, every now and then that slips out. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Today was a pretty good day. I mean, regular listeners will know that I'm still fucked up in the head. I haven't gone to that therapy appointment yet because it just hasn't come up yet in my, schedule. But like today was a good day, and that's really all I can ask for anymore is one good day at a time.
Exactly. And you just build it, two's a streak.
Two's a streak. They don't ask how, they ask how many.
Exactly. Kids got outside while I was mowing the lawn, and the boy child was riding his bike, and the girl child just decided to take you on a walk.
Yeah, we went on a walk around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I was a little sad about it because every single time we walked up to people, they crossed the street to get away from us.
Well, our daughter is intimidating.
Yeah, I mean, if I saw that tiny terror running up on me with her, bouncy little toddler run, I'd be terrified too. It was weird. It was just like every single person we passed crossed the street before we could get to them. I'm sure that they were being courteous.
Exactly.
But it was just like, what? Why?
Honestly, I think it is one of the very few holdovers from 2020.
Oh yeah, social distancing.
Yeah, it's the one thing because I remember because I'm an avid jogger, and if I'm jogging on the sidewalk, which is where I normally do my jogging, because I'm not one of those assholes who jogs in the middle of the fucking street, but peek behind the curtain there and what I think about certain people, but. I remember back in 2020, you
have sidewalks to
exactly.
on.
If you're lucky enough to have those, I remember people would give you 6 feet or get cross the street, that sort of thing, or bounce over. And I don't feel like it happened a lot before 2020, but that's
people with dogs have always done that, and that's fine. I mean, if your dog is reactive or if you don't trust my kid around your dog, that I fully understand. A toddler and a stranger's dog is not a good combination. But if you're just a couple of people walking up the street, no, don't go. Let me do that awkward white person smile at you.
It's my favorite thing to do.
It's how I acknowledge that I am not a threat. Smile without showing my teeth.
Is that why we do that?
I have no idea. I just made up some anthropology bullshit.
No, that's fair. Well, that's anthropology for you.
Anthropology is an actual study. It's not just bullshit, but sure.
Again, tells you what I think of anthropology. So, what? Oh, I think we. No, I was gonna say we should. I was gonna say I was gonna talk about, but we haven't even finalized the plans yet. That we were gonna do a crossover, and you were gonna join Matt and I over on Put Me In Coach.
Oh yeah.
And tune in and that sort of thing. But we haven't done it yet. We haven't nailed it down. We basically haven't gotten confirmation that Matt wants to do it this week is really all it is. But you're going to come over and Put Me In Coach.
Yes, I am.
Just like Matt came over onto our show.
Yeah.
But now that that's out of the way, what are we reading this week?
This week we are reading A Soul to Keep by Opal Reyne. It is the first in the Duskwalker Brides series by Opal Reyne.
Okay.
It is, let's see here, available for $4.99 on Kindle or through Kindle Unlimited. Unfortunately, do not have a full content warning list for you this week. There isn't one in the book, and Opal Reyne doesn't have a website. And while that's fine, it just doesn't give me a good way to get a list because I haven't finished this book yet. This book we will be doing in parts. I'm hoping 2 to 3, depending. But until I finish it, I can't know exactly what all the content is. So I will tell you that for this week, for the part of the book that I read, content warnings include religious overtones and religious trauma, abuse, death, gore, blood, and monsters. I mean, he's not human. He's definitely a monster this week.
Okay.
And it is dark. It is emotionally very complex. And what happens to our FMC throughout the course of the parts of the book I've read so far are dark. So, take it all with a grain of salt. It's a great book. I'm really enjoying it, but
it's considerably longer than most of the books that you read. So we are going to take it at our own pace. We are going to make sure that it's not too taxing on you to consume this book, because we've always said we want this to be fun. We don't want it to be a job.
Yes.
So
I hate that. I don't want it to sound like I'm intellectually lazy or something. I read really, really slow.
Yeah.
I always have. I've always been a voracious reader, but there's a reason why I pick short books for this show. Because I read really slow, and reading a book a week is not easy for me to do. Yeah. Which is fine. Read at whatever pace you like. But when I have to be, accountable to this podcast, I can't read a big tome every single week.
No, but it's not me talking about intellectual laziness. It's me talking about the fact that you're a stay-at-home parent. You have responsibilities, on top of this podcast. I just don't ever want it to be an additional stressor to you. So folks, if you're listening and you're like, I don't know if I want to stick around for 3 episodes, hey man, dip out for this one if it's not for you. That's okay. We totally understand. We got a backlog. Maybe go back and dip into something you haven't listened to yet. But we just want to make sure that we're creating the best content that is as minimally stressful on us as possible and is enjoyable for you, the listener.
Yeah.
So
because this is a hobby.
Exactly.
And your hobbies should never stress you out.
Exactly.
All right. So shall we begin with our story this week?
Pitter patter.
All right. In a world.
You've always wanted to do that.
I have. I've always wanted to do that. In a world where demons exist. So this world.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stop you there. How far into the book are you? Chapter
25%. I just finished chapter 10, I believe.
Okay. So I just want for the listeners. So we'll be going up through about chapter 10 today. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there is a beautiful prologue that establishes the reality of this world. The world building in this book is really fantastic, and the way that the information is parsed out to the reader is also really fantastic, but it makes it difficult to make. I was telling you this the other night. It makes it difficult for me to make notes, because usually I can just sort of go, oh, that's an important thing, I need to write that down. But like every single thing is important because it's so densely packed with information. So perhaps I am giving more information than I need to give, or writing down more than I need to write, but who cares? So this nebulous fantasy world that we live in, once again, like so many of the other books that we have read up to this point, demons are real and they roam the land freely. They are ugly, half humanoid, half monstrous, like sort of creatures that live in the perpetually shaded forest of this world called the Veil. This perpetually shaded forest is like, the way it's described is like it's inside of a massive crater, because it's surrounded on all sides by sheer cliff faces. And the cliffs are so tall that it blocks out sunlight inside of the Veil. So it's always dark there. And that's where the demons come from. This Veil takes up approximately a quarter of the land mass of the continent that they're on.
So not a not insignificant amount of land.
Yes, and it sits right in the middle of the two halves of this world. So you can't go around it. That's the thing I'm not entirely clear on. I tried to look up maps and stuff, but there isn't that kind of content available for this book. I'm not entirely clear on why you can't go around the Veil if you wanted to travel to the other side of the continent, but you can't.
Planet's flat. I don't know.
Perhaps it is. Maybe this one is flat.
What do you mean, this one? I'm kidding. I understand basic science.
Seriously, though, today I was scrolling through TikTok and I got on a live where they were literally debating whether the Earth was flat or not. I was like,
slow news day for those people.
Why? I mean, I scrolled on to another live that was fantastic. It was a deep conversation about, racism in the United States, and that was a great live. But some of the lives are just there to like be ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
we're here to discuss whether or not the Earth is flat. Anyway, so the Veil is surrounded by a thick wall of black fog that never drifts off, and most demons live inside the Veil, but some demons come out of the Veil and attack humans. the more humans a demon eats, the bigger and more powerful it becomes. So people live in perpetual fear of demons. The only ways that they live are one of two ways. One, they live in small cities that are completely surrounded by tall walls, or they live in isolated single family homes in like clearings of forests that they have carved out for themselves. Either way, they don't go out at night, because demons can't go out in the sunlight. That's the only way that they can travel around, even walking around their own cities. In the city that our FMC Reia lives in, they won't even like stand in the shadows, because a winged demon could fly down and just snatch you out
From
or something
the shadows.
of a shadow.
Wow.
It's crazy, but they are not fucking around. Demons are the most terrifying element of the world that they live in.
Okay.
The other thing they say is that demons will intentionally try to make you afraid as possible, because fear like flavors the meat.
I was just going to say, it's like salt.
Yeah, it's an irresistible smell. The more afraid you are, the more they want to eat you, and they will intentionally make you more afraid to make you taste better. There are some humans who can do magic, and those humans often don't get eaten because magic apparently tastes bad. That's all they say. Especially scariest of all the demons, although later in the book they confirm that they are not actually demons, are the Duskwalkers. They are intelligent, vicious, strong, and destructive. The Duskwalker in this book is a 7'9" tall. Well, he's 7'2", and then he has antlers that make him 7'9". Very large, very broad, jacked sort of creature.
So just shy of 3 meters for our international listeners.
Yeah, there you go. He has a wolf-like skull for a head. He does not have a face. His eyes are glowing like points of light inside of the sockets, and he walks around on 2 legs. He wears pants and a shirt and a cloak at all times whenever he is seen in public. He's also occasionally followed around by 2 dogs.
So he's a stylish demon
puppies
that likes to accessorize.
Yeah. The arrival of a Duskwalker is considered a bad omen for both humans, demons, and animals, because they will eat anything, and they are incredibly strong and very destructive. The demon population fears the Duskwalkers just as much as the human population does. In this series, the Duskwalker in question, his name is Orpheus, he takes a quote-unquote bride as sacrifice every 10 years in exchange for a protection rune that he casts on the town that gives him the bride. And that just gives them the teeniest bit more protection from demons, but they don't really say that there's any way to truly protect yourself completely.
You just gotta give him a woman every 10 years.
Yeah, you have to give him, not a woman, a person.
Oh, you said, okay. All right. I was getting a little heteronormative there, but you said bride, so I took it to be.
Yeah. This year, in this book, our FMC, her name is Reia Salvius, is going to be his bride. She has been raised in this town, sort of. She's been othered and ostracized since she was a child because her entire family was killed by demons while she hid in a corner and had to listen to them die.
That doesn't sound very nice of them.
Oh,
that's the girl whose family got killed by those things we're terrified will kill us.
Yeah. So then the next day she left her cabin and she went to town to tell them that her family had been killed. And on their way back from them like surveying the scene of her trauma, the townspeople who were with her also got attacked and killed by a demon. So now she has been labeled an omen. She is herself a bad omen, that no one will talk to her, make eye contact with her, touch her body. She is kept like in a shack that they built for her, and they give her food and clothes, and that's about it. But nobody is allowed to interact with her in any way. Otherwise, you might also die. Mm-hmm. Like, she's been treated very poorly by this community. But what's been happening is they've been just saving her. And now they're intending on using her as the sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to hand a person over to the big scary Duskwalker if you've already taught the entire town that she's not to be trusted and is herself a bad person. So,
yeah.
Deep religious trauma. At the beginning of the book, Reia has been bathed, styled, coiffed, and dressed in a bridal gown with a trailing long lace sleeves and a flower crown. She believes fully that this event will lead to her death one way or the other. She is only going because she is so fucking angry at her treatment in this town and at their choice to sacrifice her, that she doesn't want to be there anymore, and she sees this as her one chance to gain freedom in any capacity. She's hoping what happens after that is that she can run away.
Right.
And if she is not sacrificed, if she does not agree to go, she will be put in an underground prison cell for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
The options are go with the big scary monster, or we bury you underground in a concrete box.
I think I'd take my chances with the monster.
Yeah, exactly. So while I do have sympathy for the humans at large, like the human population, for the way that they're hunted down by demons, I also hate them very much for the way that they have decided to treat this entire situation. Apparently this continent, like this half of the continent, is pretty large, and the towns that are further away from the Vale may never see a demon at all. And they certainly probably would never see a Duskwalker, but this town is pretty close to the Vale, so they've developed a religious ideology that gives them the internal permission they need to be as evil as the monsters that they perceive the demons to be, basically. Once Reia gets to the town square, where she has like a couple of conversations with some of the people who live in town, Orpheus arrives. He is massive and spectral, and he's got his dogs with him, and he terrifies the entire town. Nobody wants to talk to him or look at him except to give him the offering and hope that he goes away and gives them their magic, and like that's it. He has shoved grass and dirt up his nose to form mud so that he can't smell them, because if they're afraid, he'll want to attack them instinctively. But he has enough functioning brain, like higher brain power, that he doesn't want to do that. He wants to take his bride and go. So he walks into the square. He is presented with Reia as well as two other options. And he immediately picks Reia, but he picks her because, she smells afraid, but more than anything, she smells angry. And he wants to eliminate whatever has angered her or remove her from the situation that has angered her. He's intrigued by her and the fact that she's not just stone stiff terrified of him. And so he picks her, and she doesn't really have another choice, so she goes with him.
They didn't put as much effort into the other two girls. They're really
one boy.
Oh, thank you.
One boy, one girl.
Thank you for correcting me again. They didn't put as much effort into gussying up the other folks.
No, I mean they
really
did, but they really shoved Reia through, dragged her through ye old David's bridal until she was ready to be sacrificed. But there are two other brides. They always call them brides, male or female. Doesn't matter.
I gotta rewire my heteronormative brain there.
Orpheus prefers the female brides, but only because they are less likely to try and attack him. Men will attack him. Men tend to be violent and think they can solve their problems with violence more than women do. So he does prefer the female brides, but he doesn't care one way or the other. Orpheus does not look at people as sex objects. He's just lonely, and he wants a friend. And this is how he has managed to barter an attempt at friendship. He has had 18 previous brides. None of them have survived more than a few days.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm confused. He's so bad at friendship.
He's very bad at friendship.
That they just keep does he not know how to keep a human alive? Like,
no.
Is he like my mom and plants?
Yeah. He doesn't know how to keep people alive. He doesn't really understand humanity. This entire book is really fascinating from the parts from Orpheus's perspective, because he inherited his humanity from eating other humans. They never shy away from the fact that he eats people. He ate some of his previous brides. But he is also now aware enough to know how to keep himself from doing that. And that's by eliminating some of the baser nature stuff. So he shoves mud up his nose hole so that he can't smell fear. And he, later in the book, will tell Reia that the fact that she doesn't run away from him means that she's less likely to be eaten, because she doesn't trigger his predator reflex. He doesn't understand human emotions.
Same.
I wanted to say this, and I'm worried that it's going to sound bad, but I think of Orpheus as an autistic person, and it makes it easier to understand him. He doesn't understand emotions, similar to how you don't understand emotions. Yeah. And you're the biggest autistic presence in my life. Yes. So you are not a monolith, but
no. I am not a monolith, but I have often said to you, and we've said that to our fellow autistic friend, that one of the things that we value in our partner is using sort of like using your emotions as sort of a bellwether. Like, am I doing this right? Is this the way I'm supposed to feel right now? So no, that's a totally astute observation on your part. Hold on one second. I got to turn your mic back up. There you go.
Okay. So learning this world from Orpheus's perspective is in itself fascinating. He has feelings and he cannot interpret them because he inherited them from humans that he ate. Right. He's not a person. He is a monster, or a beast, or if monster has too many negative connotations for you. He cannot be human.
No.
So he doesn't understand humans. And watching him learn more about humans while he gets to know Reia is fascinating.
It sounds kind of like trying to learn. It's like trying to learn about a culture by watching that culture's movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like what, like we consume more Bollywood than the average American probably. But
the average white American.
Definitely
for sure.
The average white American. But that is just but a glimpse of various elements of Indian culture. We would never.
Oh yeah, like I would never claim to understand Indian culture because I watch a lot of Bollywood.
Exactly.
I just understand Indian film culture.
Yeah, that's kind of what it seems like. Is like he understands it from a certain.
And only part of it, because there's also several other sects of Indian film that we don't watch.
Exactly. There's Bollywood, there's Tollywood, and there's anyway. But point is, that's what it feels like, is that he's consuming the culture literally, but not truly being part of that culture.
Yeah. So while I'm thinking about it, here is a fan art picture of Orpheus that I pulled off of Reddit.
Yeah, that's about what I pictured.
Orpheus and Reia. And it's also a pretty good size comparison.
Yeah. She's
5'6". He's 7'9" with his horns. So
looks very much like the creature from the manga that I started reading and put down, The Girl from the Other Side.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
similar stuff.
Yeah, very much.
The detailed analysis of emotions in this book really scratches some parts of my brain. I love to like hyper fixate on human emotions and try to understand and explain all of them. So this book is great for that if you're really into that. After all of their business in the clearing is done, she has agreed to be his quote-unquote bride. He has done the spell. He has to have human blood to do the spell, so he like pricks her hand and uses 1 drop of blood to make this spell happen. They leave. She does her best to keep up with him, but he is 2 feet taller than she is, and there's like a foot of snow on the ground. So she walks with him as long as she can, and while they walk, they begin their initial conversations. The getting to know you stuff, like I said, I'm in chapter 10 and we're still in the getting to know you portion.
Oh boy.
So, but it's
dance.
Yeah, it's difficult to like really explain how hard it is for them to get to know each other when Reia literally only thinks of demons and duskwalkers as horrible beasts that she can never understand who thirst for her blood at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And he has never met a human who would talk to him.
Right.
You know, like it's deep. The getting to know you stuff is so deep, but it makes we just now started getting into the romance part in chapter 10. It makes it feel very real and very earned.
But it also sounds like it could be the premise for a wacky sitcom.
Oh yeah.
She's an ostracized woman. He's an 8-foot tall demon. They don't understand each other.
If this was 1984, yes.
Yeah, I can hear the theme song.
Yep.
I can see the credit. Exactly.
Anyway, after a while, she falls like one too many times in the snow, so he picks her up and he carries her in the crook of his arm, like in that picture I showed you. It's similar to how I carry the toddler around the house because she prefers not to walk if mommy will pick her up.
Yeah. Does Reia also just lift her arms up and go, up?
Up.
Thank you.
No, she doesn't do that. He carries her easily. He carries her all night. And he decides that he's not going to put her down until they reach home because he knows that if he puts her down again, she'll probably run. So he's just going to keep holding her. And
I was going to say, probably because he'll get annoyed if she falls again, because that's what I would do.
He doesn't get annoyed with her like at all, ever. But he doesn't also, I don't think he has the capacity for being annoyed.
Oh, must be nice.
She falls asleep in his arms.
Oh.
And he sort of watches her sleep. And the way that he does, like, the way that Opal Reyne writes it is like, in order for him to look at her, he has to like turn his head like this.
Okay.
To look down
very
at her.
Uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable, very unnatural.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have eyes.
And I'm trying to figure out a way to explain. Is it try to put your chin on your collarbone?
Yeah.
Like that's what Katie's doing right now, like trying to put your chin on your collarbone or your ear right on your shoulder joint.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of...
It's weird.
Yeah.
He like looks down, and to do that, he has to move his entire head.
Interactive
podcasts.
podcasts.
So she falls asleep in his arms, and in the morning, he watches her wake up, and his thoughts are so fucking poetic about how beautiful the sight of a human waking up in the early morning light is, and like the fluttering of the eyelashes and the smooth pale skin and the sort of shimmering quality of the light in her hair. But he doesn't mean her specifically.
Yeah.
There is a portion of this book where I think he thinks of Reia more like a pet than like a person. So it would be like how I look at our cat Danny sometimes and go, God, you're so beautiful. You're just so beautiful because you're all big and orange and fluffy and your eyeballs match your fur.
I was going to say, brother, you have not seen me wake up. None of those things. Oh, God. Cursed with existence. No, that's not really it. But I very rarely wake up perky.
Yeah.
And bright.
Yeah, well, neither do I. Anyway, while he's carrying her as she's waking up, this is also the point where he really thinks, he just takes a long consideration to the fact that he could squeeze her until she popped if he wanted to. Like, he's so much stronger than her.
Yeah.
And he has to be aware of that at all times, or he will kill her on accident.
Yeah. That's how I felt when our children were born. Like, seriously.
Yeah, oh yeah, babies. Babies are terrifyingly small, and you could just kill them.
And I'm a large person, so I worry about that. Who actively works to get stronger.
Yeah. After she wakes up fully, they have a conversation. This is where they discuss the magic elements of this world that we need to know. So he can do magic. And the reason he can do magic is because he ate some people who could do magic.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. He can't do major magic. He can only do minor magic. And he understands some protective, like, charm magic that doesn't necessarily require actual, like, bloodletting, because all of his magic involves blood, having to draw blood of some kind. But just, like, he understands how to, like, tie together the right herbs with the right ribbons to, like, make a protection charm and that kind of stuff, too.
Seems like a hassle to need blood for your magic.
Yeah. It is, especially for him, because as he loses blood, he also loses physical strength and power. So if he loses too much blood, he won't be able to do magic anymore.
Ooh, catch-22.
But most of his magic only involves needing a couple of drops at a time.
Oh, good.
So it's not that big of a deal. Having said that, I don't know what's coming. Perhaps it will be a big deal later.
I bet it's him. Wink.
He says there is somebody out there who is more powerful than him, but he doesn't want to talk about foreshadowing. He references several times that there is someone out there who knows something important, but Raya's never going to meet that person because he just won't let it happen. So something's coming, something big, and it's all foreshadowing. They have a fairly tender moment while they're walking through the woods at this point. Like she calls him by his name, and no human has ever used his name before. In any of the previous companions that he's had, they've all just called him Duskwalker. They've never even thought to ask him his name. And the way that she says his name is what gets him, because she says it sort of softly and delicately rather than cruelly, and it makes his eyes turn, I want to say, purple. His eyes change color depending on what he's feeling.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's the only indication that he has, because he doesn't have face. It's the only thing that she can do to read him, because he doesn't have a face. So he doesn't have any of the normal facial structure that, like, the little things that we learn to read in a human face.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really fascinating workaround to that problem. And also, I don't know what all the colors mean yet, but I really do. I want to, like, make a list.
I know.
I can know for sure.
I can't wait to see what color his eyes get when he's horny.
I'm gonna guess pink. Because I think I've seen it in the fan art. Anyway, so normally his eyes are blue. Occasionally, so far in this book, they have turned yellow and purple and red. Red is the bad color. You do not want to be around Orpheus when his eyes turn red.
Yeah.
Because that's when he's at his most violent and his most dangerous. Yellow seems to be when he's pleased with something, and purple seems to be when he's, like, lustful. Not lustful. That's not right.
Low-key horny.
Low-key horny. I think they say desire. So maybe, low-key horny.
I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit. Are you comfortable like that with that microphone where it's
going to fall in just a moment here. I'm sure of it. It'll be just fine.
All right.
Anyway, it's at this point in the book where they are attacked by demon slayers. Demon slayers are people who have trained themselves to relieve themselves of the fear response, because if they don't smell like fear, then they can sneak up on demons easier and kill them. And they're specifically waiting for Orpheus because he comes through here every 10 years with a new bride. He gets shot in the shoulder with an arrow. He almost squeezes her to death because he's so angry in that moment that she's like, I can't breathe. So he puts her down, and a demon hunter comes over to her, and she thinks, oh good, I'm saved, and then immediately puts a sword to her neck to use her as bait or as collateral or as punishment.
Yeah.
If Orpheus doesn't do what they want, they'll kill her. Orpheus then changes into his true form.
Oh shit.
And his true form is just a bigger, furrier version of his original form, basically, without the clothes. And he has long, dark fur, like a bear. I pictured a bear or something like that. And then he has a skeletal structure on the outside of his body. So his ribs are on the outside, the bones in his hands are on the outside, like his shoulder blades and his collarbone, I think, are on the outside too. He also has a tail, and his legs become less human-like and more wolf-like. And his eyes turn bright red, and all of his clothes are gone except for his cloak, because his cloak is an actual, like, thing. His clothes he makes them with like illusion magic, basically. His eyes turn red. He attacks the demon slayer and immediately eats him. And Reia is just like betrayed and pissed off that the humans are going to kill her because she thought the humans were her salvation. So once he starts coming after the other demon slayer that has the sword to Reia's throat, the demon slayer pushes her away to defend himself, and she just books. She starts running. So she gets like, I don't know, I'm gonna guess maybe half a mile away, and she hears him chasing after her in the woods, but she's far enough away from him that she can't see him. And then at some point she decides, you know what, fuck this. He's either going to catch me or I'm going to stop and he can just kill me. But either way, I'm not running anymore. Like, I don't want to, like, if it were me personally, I'd be like, I don't want to die out of breath.
Yeah, I want to die at least comfortably. Yeah.
I'm so sick of huff puffing. I just want to. So she stops and she turns around and she waits for him to show up. And he runs through the clearing at her and he bowls her over. And this part of the book scared the pants off of me. So she's laying on the ground. He's giant, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to use some visual aids for my husband here. So she's lying on the ground. This is her head. And he just puts his whole fucking mouth around her head and is like licking her face. And he's on top of her. She obviously can't get up. This is in no way sexy. It's only scary.
Yeah, no, this is unpleasant.
And his bottom jaw and his muzzle can touch the ground around her skull. He's just gonna chomp her head off. And then she starts laughing hysterically, probably because the situation is just so fucking ridiculous. Like, first my family were killed by demons, and then the people I called to help were killed by demons, and then I lived ostracized for the next 10 years of my life on the outskirts of this horrible fucking town, and now I'm going to be eaten by a fucking demon. Like, it's just blow after blow for poor Reia.
but I'm hoping that what we're seeing is that this is like the demon equivalent of like somebody loosening the top of the salt shaker, because like if fear makes it taste so much better than being laughed at.
Actually, no. Well, so it's not that it makes it like, it's not like it makes her taste bad for her to laugh at him. But what ends up happening is he pulls back because she's not afraid. She doesn't really smell or taste that much like fear, and nobody has ever laughed before being eaten before, and he just plain finds it intriguing. He's just curious about this fucking crazy woman.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, as much as I would have liked it to have been my idea, that's actually very accurate. I would like to think if I was an 8-foot tall demon who was trying to chew somebody's head off and they started laughing at me, I'd be a little intrigued as well.
Yeah. So at this point, like, he turns back into what I call soft Orpheus, the Orpheus with clothes on, basically, who's hiding. He's sort of ashamed of the way his body looks, or at least he wants to keep it hidden because he doesn't want to scare her.
Orpheus.
So he always wears his clothes around her. He also has gloves on, by the way. He's like wears like leather gloves all the time too.
Well, those are just cool.
Yeah, he's just cool, and he gets his first real whiff of her smell, because she, like, when she was first sacrificed, she was like perfumed and coiffed and stuff. He says she smells like elderberries and red roses. And there is so much of this fucking book dedicated to how the other one smells. to Reia, Orpheus smells like smoked mahogany and pine, I think. And to Orpheus, Reia smells like elderberry and red roses. And I shit you not, I have read at least 6 whole pages dedicated to smells. But this is the first time that he smells her.
And nobody ever smells like one thing.
Oh, yeah. At least they didn't. Okay. This might be a divisive statement, but there is a phrase in books that I hate, and it is this. I'll just use you as an example. He smelled like sage and cucumber and something uniquely Carl. I hate it.
It's like, I understand the rule of threes, but I can't be bothered to think of a third thing.
Well, there's something that's supposed to be like unique and special and undefinable about it, but mostly it just sounds like I couldn't think of a third thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Anyway, so he licks her after that. Like, he likes her smell so much that he licks her, including like he licks inside her dress, like he licks her titties. just because he thinks she smells good.
Yeah.
So he's like, what does she taste like?
And
this
he has
is,
no
again,
concept of
not a sexual
titties.
thing. Yeah, he doesn't really have a concept of titties or anything like that. He just licks her chest.
What a sad existence.
Poor Orpheus. He doesn't know about titties.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously seen a few and eaten several.
But he has no larger context for them.
For the sexualization of the female form. He tells her at that point that he was going to eat her, but he stopped because she laughed. And he then tells her that her life is precious to him and he will do whatever he can to protect her. But that does have to include telling her when to stop doing the thing that will get him to kill her.
Yeah.
There are several times throughout this book where I'm like, is he threatening her? No, I really think he's just being very matter of fact. If you do that, I'm going to eat you. I don't want to eat you. I don't feel good about saying that, but I'm gonna.
Yeah.
So he tells her that, and then later he tells her that the fact that she wasn't running away is ultimately what probably stopped him from eating her, because she didn't trigger the prey response when he saw her standing in that clearing.
He's like, oh man, she's just standing there.
Yeah.
Ugh, I was gonna eat her.
He kind of likes it. He's sort of like, it's like she was waiting for me.
Yeah.
So at that point in the conversation, she notices that he's hurt, and she offers to dress his wounds for him. So she starts tearing off strips of her dress and like wraps his arm and his torso, because he's been stabbed a couple of times in the torso. And even though he's not going to die from these wounds, she doesn't know that. She's just showing compassion.
Yeah.
However, I will say, I'm not entirely sure how fucking big her dress was, but he's a very large creature and she has a lot of dress left when she's done with this. But she has wrapped his entire torso in big swaths of fabric.
Wow.
That seems like it would take a lot.
Now, what good is the exoskeleton if it's not going to protect you from all those wounds? I don't.
You know what? I'm not entirely sure,
No?
but they are stab wounds, so like your ribs will protect your heart if you get stabbed, but they won't if you stab between the ribs.
Yeah, that's fair.
He lets her bandage him because she is gentle and respectful, and like she asks consent before she starts like going around his body, and a human has never cared about his well-being in his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he is eons old, he says. So it's also just like a novelty and a fascination to him. The conversation throughout this entire bandaging is really dense, and it's scattered with a lot of little bits of information that I think are going to be important later. So I just wrote them down. Demons prefer scavenging over hunting live prey. They'll just take a dead body if it's lying over there.
Demons are smart.
Yep.
Work smarter, not harder, guys.
Exactly. Blood loss is power loss. As I said earlier, the more blood Orpheus loses, the more power and strength he loses. And then there's also, this is all also peppered through with personal conversation of things that I think we need to know about the characters themselves. So Reia wanted to be a demon hunter. She thought that was probably what would be best for her, because at the end of the day, she would be free to wander the forest at will and not be so afraid. And Orpheus has no fucking idea what he is. He's not really a demon.
Mm-hmm.
He's not really a human. He is other everywhere, but he's also more powerful than everyone, so it doesn't really matter that he's other. It's not like, he's not marginalized. He's just other.
Yeah. I'm feeling some strong connections to Orpheus. I like this guy.
Yeah, I think he would like Orpheus, like as a person. He's very sweet. I've seen a lot of TikToks and like Reddit posts about him being referred to as like a cinnamon roll. He's a sweet cinnamon roll of just a sweet little baby inside of a giant murderous demon shell.
Yeah, I definitely can relate.
Yeah. But like throughout the course of this, what I've read so far, he only really cares about like making her comfortable and making sure that she feels safe and protected.
And I'm glad that they're communicating with each other.
Yeah, they do talk really well. At this point, she is still convinced she's going to run as soon as she possibly can. He's still convinced she's going to run as soon as she possibly can, but there's tentative like little like veins of friendship running through this right now. After she's finished bandaging him up, she tells him that she is disturbed by the blood on his face, and he's like, oh, I never considered that before, and just like wipes the blood off with some snow. And
Sorry, I live alone.
Yeah. He offers to carry her again because she's so cold, and he does it in this like sweet kind of flirtatious like gallant way. He bends down, like bows down to her and puts his good arm down for her, and he says, let me melt your heart. And his eyes turn purple, so whatever that means, and the way that she reacts to that makes him like explode inside with like a romantic pride thing or something. I
Yeah.
can't really explain it, but like he's so happy and excited that she smiled and blushed a little and like daintily stepped over and sat down on his arm so he could carry her, because even though he's injured, he's still so strong, it doesn't matter. And that's the first like little hint of something more than just companionship growing inside of Orpheus as well. And then he says that as soon as she sits down in his arms, he feels no pain. He could just run forever.
Yeah.
He's just so proud. And they just wrote 2 pages about her smell from his perspective and his smell from her perspective. They talk about about smells so much.
You smell good. No, you smell good. No, you smell good.
They don't talk to each other. This is internalized stuff. This is
Oh.
paragraphs of thoughts about smells. Which from the reader's perspective is great. It really adds to the world building when you add smell and sound and like texture and things like that. But at some point you go, wait, are we talking about fucking smoked mahogany and pine again?
You know, it's funny.
I love it. I love it all. I'm truly not making fun of it.
No,
I promise.
It's funny you say that, because I often think about that in terms of the video games that I play. Like Elden Ring, there are some places you go in Elden Ring where you're like, this can't smell good. This has got to smell like a Whopper that's been left on the pavement for a while. Like there's no way that Scarlet Rot smells good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I get it. I do appreciate that. My brain, I mean, I tend to read nonfiction. So smell doesn't often come up in terms of like, what did it smell like when all those baseball players were doing steroids?
Like a locker room.
So the idea of reading about it doesn't jive well with me, but I understand the value from that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a depth of world building that gives the reader more to go on to build it inside their own head, and that's great.
Yeah.
After he picks her up and they walk on, they have another conversation where he tells her that she is not his bride. To be his bride, she has to willingly give him her soul to keep. And he has given up on ever getting that. Now he just wants a companion because he's so incredibly lonely.
Mm-hmm.
But in exchange for giving her soul to him, she would be immortal. As long as he was alive, she would also live.
All right.
And Reia just sort of like marvels at his loneliness. Like she's been lonely. She's been lonely for several years, but he's been lonely for several like
eons,
centuries
yeah.
of loneliness. And he has become more human as he eats more humans. She realizes this. She never shies away from the fact that he's eaten people either. Like we're not covering this up and pretending like it doesn't exist. He has eaten many humans, including some of his previous brides. She knows this. She's horrified by this, but it is the reality. It is what it is. And he's also the only one protecting her right now. So,
So beggars can't be choosers.
No, really, truly, they cannot. They walk for like another day and they finally reach the Vale. And as they walk into the fog smells so bad, like rotting flesh, that she has to shove her head under his cloak and just smell him instead, because it's the only thing that like her eyes are watering. I was like, is this stuff like, is it like mace or is it just smells that bad? They walk for like an entire day with her stuck under there. At some point he puts her down and she has to walk. Like she has to walk under his cloak to hide her smell from the rest of the demons who live in the Vale. So she spends an entire day under his cloak, just wandering through the forest until eventually they reach his house. And his house is a log cabin, a very well constructed, he built it, a very well constructed, double walled log cabin in a clearing in the deepest part of the Vale. He has comfort items. He has furniture. He has enough furs to, suffocate a human being. Every like hanging or every surface has like stuff hanging off of it, like little trinkets and baubles and crystals and bones and bird beaks and like cool shit. The aesthetic of this sounded amazing. I was like, I totally want to go to this place. I want to go to the place that has the big antler chandelier with crystals and bones hanging off it. That sounds fucking cool.
I'll look it up on Airbnb.
Thanks, baby. And you might have to go to Australia because I think Opal Reyne is Australian.
All right.
And all of the like everything inside of it is built to be accommodating to his size. So like the table's way too tall and the chairs are all really big for her, and
Kind of like when we go to the bathroom at my Aunt Beth and Uncle Paul's house.
yeah. Because everything's small there.
Well, especially that. They're all very short people.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go in the bathroom, and my wife and I, Katie, are both over 6 foot tall, you cannot see anything from like the neck up
In the mirror.
In the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. He has like protective charms that hang around. So he goes out to replace the protective charms because he's been gone for several days. And while he does that, Raya snoops and she finds a dagger that's just laying out on a table. And she vaguely, like briefly considers fighting her way out. And he silently comes up behind her and is like, "You do not want to do that. You'll die."
Yeah.
And again, it feels like a threat. It feels like it's supposed to be threatening, but it's not. It's a matter of fact observation. If you stab me, I will eat you.
Yeah.
It's an if-then statement.
I won't want to.
It's not a malicious choice. It's like a constant reminder that he is part animal. He's not a human being. He doesn't have any of the moral quandaries about killing people. He tells her that she has to go and bathe off her human scent. And she's like, "That sounds amazing. A bath and a hot meal and bed. That's all I want." And his bathroom is like super well appointed. And he's got like big crystals everywhere. And he burns herbs for incense and everything's candle lit because obviously there's no electricity. And he's got this big tub that he makes hot water by like dropping a couple of drops of his own blood in there. And it turns into a full tub of hot water. And it sounds so super cool. And she's like, "This is great." And then he walks back into the bathroom and he's like, "I have to wash your body with this special soap. I have to do it because you can't smell like yourself. I have to like wash you so you smell like me to keep your scent hidden from everyone else. And I have to wash your body from head to toe twice a day."
That sounds sketchy.
It sounds sketchy, right? But it's not. It's just what they have to do. And it's a great, like, from the reader's perspective, it's a great excuse for there to be nudity every few pages.
No, it's fair.
She is, this scene first initially is incredibly uncomfortable because he does not ask. He just starts doing it. And she starts fighting and he has to like hold her in the tub and she's trying to get away. And it was really uncomfortable to read.
Until you realize that's what we do with our children sometimes.
Yeah, well, yeah. Sometimes you have to fight them into the bathtub because they've got syrup in their hair. Yeah.
You can't smell like mustard and Cheetos all day.
Yeah. Mustard and Cheetos. Our children don't eat mustard.
I know. It was just the
Cheetos.
first two things that popped into my head.
So but then it goes to being once he explains it to her, it goes to being incredibly clinical. Like he's still wearing his gloves and everything to try and give her like a better sense of detachment from the situation because he knows that if he touches her with his bare skin, she'll freak out. And then it actually gets kind of cute because he like tickles her feet. Not like in a gross way, but like...
No, I can see it though. I can see this big demon. Tickle, tickle, tickle.
And she laughs and then he laughs. And she's like, "Holy shit, you can laugh?"
He's like, "Holy shit, I can laugh."
Yeah. So the next couple of days they spend trying to get to know each other. He takes her outside by like he gives her like this fancy like diadem. Do you know what a diadem is?
No.
It's like a circlet headband crown.
Oh, yes.
With like a thing that hangs down on her forehead.
Then yes, I do.
That is a protection charm. Like lesser demons can't touch it or they will burn to death. And more powerful demons won't touch it because it's too painful. So it helps keep her safe. She has to wear it whenever she leaves the house. And he takes her out and they like peruse the garden because he grows human food so that the humans can eat. He has made every attempt to make sure that the humans who come here are comfortable. They just happen to be so terrified that they end up dying in a couple of days. Making stupid choices. And dying in a couple of days.
I'm seeing all this happen in a Wes Anderson style montage, and it's delightful.
Oh. I want Wes Anderson's color palette and Orpheus's eye orbs.
Right.
Anyway, so like he shows her the garden and she picks her own food. He has clothes for her, but it's all the gowns from the previous brides who have gotten all the way to this point. So He offers her food to use as dyes so she can dye the dresses so she's not constantly wearing a white dress because she hates that. And he shows her how to bundle up herbs with ribbon and bells. Like, she asks, can I do this with you? And he's really excited about the fact that she just wants to be around him, in any capacity. She eats her meals in the same room as him. She tolerates the bathings every single day without any fuss. She doesn't try and kill him all of the time. And they sort of cohabitate in this weird but sweet and pleasant way. It's really, really nice. Like, as I was reading it, I was like, this isn't so bad. Like, it's sort of awful, but it's also not so bad. Yeah. He, several times throughout the next couple of chapters, really appreciates her appearance. He thinks that she's beautiful. He thinks that her body is curvy and attractive. She's like mid-sized, I guess, somewhere between me and my sister. My sister's a tiny thing. Love you. You're beautiful. I'm not saying you're not
We're
beautiful.
simply pointing out the
you
size
are just
disparity.
very small. The relationship that is developing between them is like incredibly complex, and it's constantly flipping itself around. They're constantly going from like, he's reminding her that he is a horrible monster who will eat her if she does the wrong thing, to, you know, offering to tie her shoes for her, and like, he kneels at her feet whenever he has to talk to her. He kneels to her while she's in a chair so that they're on eye level, and she really likes that.
I could kill you. Now give me those tootsies. Tickle, tickle.
Exactly. He makes sure that she's always comfortable. He has plans to take her places because he wants her to be able to pick her own decorations for the house. He wants to make sure she's happy here, and she recognizes that, but she also still is intending on running away, because to her, this is still a prison. It's just a different kind of prison than the prison she grew up in for the last 10 years. But she craves freedom, and the only freedom that she can see for herself is one where she's alone. Having said that, I think she's kind of an idiot to think she could run through the veil and not immediately be eaten.
I was going to say, between the smell and the things that want to kill you, do you think you can do this?
Yes. No, you can't. So Orpheus is kind, he is thoughtful, he is considerate. Reia is still planning to flee, but she recognizes that his strange inhuman humanity, his intriguing appearance, and his twice daily bathings are starting to turn her on.
Oh, no.
Because he like touches her nipples, and he has to like touch her vagina every single time. He has to brush his fingers through her labia and all the way up through her buttocks. And those touches, while being clinical, will still turn you on.
Yeah.
But the more comfortable she's becoming being around him, the less clinically arousing they are, and the more arousing they are to her. Yeah. He is deeply smitten with her by this point. Deep smit. He is so into her in this really charming and earnest kind of way.
I love a good earnest person.
Yeah.
Earnest character.
He loves that she isn't afraid of him, that she's willing to spend time around him. He also wants to spend all of his time around her. He accompanies her every day when they go out to the garden to eat, because he has cleared enough trees from the garden to get sunlight down into the vale that she spends as much time out in the sunlight as she can every day. And he sits at the edge of the sunlight and just watches to make sure that nobody's going to attack her. He wants to do anything he can to make her happy and comfortable. Then one night during the final bathing, she asks him to take his gloves off.
Oh.
Ooh. And from his perspective, he's like, are you sure you want to do this? Because my hands are going to freak you out. And from her perspective, she's like, I kind of want him to just touch me with his bare hands. So he does that. And this scene is in Orpheus's perspective. So we see how much, how turned on he is by touching her body, and how he takes a little extra time to wash her breasts and a little extra time to wash her pubic area, and how he's curious about her clitoris because he has no idea what it is. And
but again, he found it real quick.
Yeah, he feels that hard little nub in there every single time. It's not that hard to find, guys.
Telling you.
and he washes her all the way down to her toes, and then her feet aren't ticklish. And he's like, why? That usually makes you laugh. Why didn't you laugh today? I wanted to hear you laugh. But it's because she's so turned on that she's not ticklish anymore.
Yeah.
But he doesn't understand any of that.
No.
He doesn't understand that she could find him sexually arousing in any way. So it's really intriguing from the audience's perspective to be like, oh, she wants you. And for him to be like, I don't know, but we're done now. Goodbye. I have to go.
Again, more and more I'm relating to Orpheus.
And that scene was, let's see, let's just read my notes here. For her part, she is incredibly turned on, but he can't tell, so he's confused by her reactions. This whole scene was a quiet seduction, and sweating emoji. I was just like, whew, I really liked that. Great job. Opal, you did so good. And that is the end of the chapter that I stopped at.
All right.
So it's just getting just a little good and just a little sexy, and the relationship is built and the world is brilliant and constantly evolving.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read more of it. I'm not going to push myself to read it too much, so you guys are probably going to get 2 more episodes out of this.
Yeah.
It'll be a 3-parter probably by the time I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's getting good, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes.
And I'm looking forward to you immersing yourself in it. It's been, I mean, this was again, we've mentioned this a couple times. This was a listener suggestion.
Yes.
So
it's been recommended to me many times, including by the incredible and 3/4 of the reason I am still on TikTok, See You Later, who makes the Hell's Bells series.
Yes.
She did like What's on My Bookshelf, and she recommended this book. So it's been on my list since then.
But
this is the fan art of Orpheus's.
Oh, that's exactly, that's exactly what I would picture. It's been very exciting to see you dive into something that might not have normally been on your radar.
Yeah.
And how you're taking to it and sharing little tidbits, but not too much, because obviously you got to save it for the show.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where this goes.
I'm excited too. I mean, I know a lot of it is because I see so much of you in Orpheus, in the way that Orpheus does not understand the world around him, but you didn't have to eat a few dozen humans to get the way you are.
No.
You were just born with neurodivergence.
Oh, yeah. I was just an undiagnosed autistic person who developed some serious masking.
Oh, yeah.
And then had to deconstruct all of it in order to become, quite frankly, a better husband and definitely a better parent. Because, wow, boy, I did not understand that. Like, I thought, I was like, oh, yeah, I get what being a parent's like. No, I didn't.
Yeah, I don't think you can really understand what being a parent's like without spending a significant amount of time around children in a parenting capacity.
Exactly.
Even if you're not their parent, but like, you know, if you're raising them in some capacity.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that like parenting was different for me because I'm autistic. No, parenting is different for everybody because there's nobody that can prepare you for it. But there were just times where I'm like, hey, you demonstrated that you already know how to do this thing, so now you need to do it every single time. Our son is 5.
Yeah.
That does not fly.
Yeah, that's not how that works at all.
But my brain is like, I've seen you do this thing one time, so now you should do it every time. No, it's not like that.
No,
so
it's not.
I'm excited to see what other ways I am similar to Orpheus. I don't have an exoskeleton. My eyes don't change color.
No.
But
you don't have the weird dick that I have seen in the fan art, because it's a weird dick.
No. I have a perfectly
normal human penis.
Yep. So sorry, listeners.
Can confirm normal human penis on my husband.
Put the weird dick alarm away.
I'm gonna get like a button that like sings a song whenever we have to do the weird dick. I'm just gonna push the button.
Push the button, Frank.
But yeah, so yes, I am excited to continue this book. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I love Orpheus so much. In like, as a character, sure, I'm developing an affection for him, but the concept of the Duskwalker and the way that he thinks is so original to me. I've never read a monster like this before.
Yeah.
He's so fleshed out. He's not just a person. in a different body.
Mhm.
He's an entirely different creature, and it's golf claps for Opal Reyne. She did so good. She did so good.
Good.
And I'm proud of her.
And I am too, and I cannot wait to see where we go from here. But for now,
Yes.
you can find us on social media at Instagram and TikTok. We are at Cheap Smut. If you feel like you want to email us, cheapsmutpod@gmail.com. The music that we use in this episode and every episode is called Nostalgia by Mackay Beats. You can find it along with thousands of other free songs for your use at the Free Music Archive, freemusicarchive.org. And I'm only just now realizing how shot my voice is.
Yeah, you've been sick. You can tell. Your
Yeah.
voice is really tired
And
tonight.
it's especially right now. It's dying. So take us home.
All right, listener, if there is a book in you, write it. And if there's fucking in it, I'll read it.
And then she will come on this show and explain it to me for your entertainment.
Let's go rest these voices, baby.
Yes, let's.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.